In my everyday life, I use both a Mac and a PC computer. A MacBook Pro 16-inch computer I use for work, and a home-built desktop PC that I use at home for freelance and for gaming. I don't really have a horse in the race when it comes to the Mac versus PC line. I've used both extensively throughout my entire career, and I think there's merits to both sides of the fence. That being said, I do think there's a lot of objective things that you should know when making a decision on both Mac and PC, and a lot of old rumors that aren't really relevant anymore are still circulating around in our circles. You know, between my Mac laptop and my desktop PC, one of them is vastly more expensive, and the other one is vastly more powerful. You can probably guess which one is which, but maybe not for the reasons you might think. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Blackbar. Hello, I am Caleb. Today we are going to talk about what sort of computer your church's media team should be using, either Apple or Windows-based machines. I'm going to be focusing primarily on content creation machines that are built to do video production, live streaming, maybe some image processing, even the basics of 3D modeling and animation. If you need something to just do word processing and surf the internet, you can find decent options on both sides. I'm also not going to get into the more subjective aspects of either side. I know some people who love using Windows machines for the operating system, and I know some people who love OS X on Mac. There are some features that are exclusive to both, but today we're going to focus more on the hardware, specifically 3 different categories: the price to performance ratio of the machines you can buy, the expected lifespan of the machines, and the warranty offered by the manufacturers. There are a lot of things that have been announced in the past couple months, especially from Apple, that I think make this an incredibly relevant conversation right now. So let's jump into it first with the price to performance ratio. I'm going to come out right at the beginning and say that if you're looking for power, both sides have it. Apple has done an excellent job of trying to convince people that you need their computers in order to do creative work. It's simply not true. Both sides have plenty enough power to do what we would need to do on a regular basis. The difference is how much that power might cost. That's where we get into the price to performance ratio, or how much it costs for how much horsepower we have under the hood. Now, the first thing I think is worth mentioning is the infamous Apple tax. Historically, if you built a machine on both Windows and Mac that was spec'd about the same, the Mac would always be more expensive because you're paying for the brand or the operating system or the ecosystem and all that kind of thing. But in reality, in most recent years, the tax has been getting less and less. This is not in any way due to Apple reducing their prices over time. That obviously won't happen. But it's actually due to PC manufacturers raising their prices to match Apple's margins. About 6 months ago, I was due for a computer upgrade at work. At the time, I was using a Dell XPS 15 laptop computer. It was great, it was immensely powerful outside of some weird graphics card driver issues, but it was time for me to update. Myself and our IT director, Mike, spent a couple weeks looking for different options on both the Mac and the PC side. I needed something that was powerful enough to do 4K video processing as well as some basic 3D modeling animation, and it had to be portable. Much of my job has me going from meeting to video sets, all that kind of thing. For the budget that we had set and the requirements that we had picked out, the Apple MacBook Pro 16-inch was the most powerful machine for the budget that we had. It beat out every other PC laptop on the market. And we tried to find something better. So if your opinion previously has been Mac versus PC and the Mac is always exorbitantly more expensive, it might be worth taking a look for your budget and your needs. For us, the MacBook ended up winning out. Now, I think something worth mentioning as an exception to this Apple tax going down is one of Mac's newest options, their flagship Mac Pro desktop model. The starting price of this beautiful behemoth of a machine is $6,000. The base specs of this machine have been beaten by machines that cost less than half of it. I don't often share my opinion on these sorts of videos, but I remember when this thing was announced, I saw several church media professionals in all of these Facebook groups looking forward to trying to convince their senior pastors to let them pick one up. I'm gonna be honest with you, I think that's a negligent waste of tithe money. That is the exact opposite of being a good steward of our finances. All right, rant over, we'll keep going. There is an advantage that the PC side has for pricing that Apple doesn't. Many of the hardware vendors that build machines for PC will actually sell their computers through vendors who offer non-profit pricing. Apple does not offer non-profit discounts on any of their devices. They technically do offer some discounts if you're ordering into like the 5-figure mark every single year, but considering most churches aren't hitting that, I imagine it's not too worth it to talk about. There are a variety of different reputable sites you can go to try to find non-profit pricing for any of the PC manufacturers, but we haven't really found one in particular to recommend that has better pricing or warranty options or anything like that. I would highly suggest finding the machine you want and shopping around on these different sites to see who will give you the best discount. Now, I think there's an important factor that's worth mentioning here that has way more of an impact on your price to performance ratio that doesn't actually have anything to do with the Mac versus PC world at all. The laptop tax. It's an often overlooked fact that if you spec out two machines, a laptop and a desktop that are built the same with the same components, that the laptop will cost sometimes upwards of 50% more. I get it, for a lot of people, including myself, that portability is super important and super valuable. I could not do my job without it. But if you can live without it, a desktop machine will always be more powerful for the price. That's not even getting into the mess that is thermal throttling for similarly spec desktops and laptops. That's probably for a different video. Next up, why don't we talk about the expected lifetime of the machines that we're hoping to buy. This is the topic why we actually wanted to make this video sooner rather than later. There's been some very specific announcements, especially on the Apple side, that have come out that have called into question some of the longevity of their machines. A couple of months ago, Apple announced that they would slowly start transitioning into using their own ARM processors instead of Intel processors in their new upcoming computers. That's probably a lot of gibberish to a lot of people who aren't familiar with this, so let me go into the details of why this is important. The processor of a computer, or the CPU of the computer, is the brain or the heart of your machine. It's where most of the power of your computer comes from. For the past 15 years, Apple has been partnering with Intel to build the processors for their computers. Meanwhile, on their mobile lines for their iPad and iPhone, Apple has been working on their own home-built processors, the ARM processors. In an effort to build a more consistent ecosystem across their mobile devices and their computers, they want to use ARM processors for everything. It makes a lot of sense from a developer and a consumer perspective, as a developer can make one application that works flawlessly on all of Apple's devices. But there are some consequences with this decision. First of all, ARM processors aren't necessarily known for their power, more their efficiency and their size. For content creators and pro users like us, there hasn't really been a super powerful ARM processor that we've seen do some numbers that really could be useful for what we're looking for. But Apple has said that this is going to be a slow transition, that they're still going to be making Intel-based Macs for the next couple of years until they fully switch over. However, buying an Intel-based Mac right now is a bit of a risky bargain. In 2005, Apple made a similar transition from PowerPC processors to Intel. Within 2 years after the transition, all PowerPC computers were entirely shut off from updates. Apple stopped supporting them altogether, leading to developers having to create 2 different versions of software for Intel and PowerPC-based Macs, and they left the PowerPC Macs without any security updates, leading to huge security holes in the outdated software. Now, Apple has promised to continue to support Intel hardware for the lifespan of the computer, which is exactly as long as Apple decides it is, and we have no idea how long that actually is. So if you're dead set on buying an Apple right now, you're either going to buy an Intel-based Mac, which has already been told to us it is going to be obsolete in 2 years. It's a ticking time bomb as it is. Or you buy an ARM-based Mac, which is largely untested, although they do have some software to be able to run Intel-based programs on ARM-based machines. There, I'm sure, will be overhead involved with that, so you won't be getting the most bang for your buck on anything for a couple years until everybody catches up. It's kind of a no-win situation either way you go, and I don't think right now, honestly, as a Mac owner, this is a good time to be buying an Apple product. Apple has announced that the first of their ARM-based computers will be launching later this year, and I do think it'd be a really good idea for all churches to wait and see what those machines can do before we consider those options in the future. Meanwhile, on the PC world, we really don't have any of this sort of problem, especially if you're building a desktop machine, you can upgrade that machine incrementally every single year, leading to a lifespan that is virtually infinite as long as you keep making those incremental updates. So now that we've covered the lifespan of these machines, let's talk about the warranty options that they both have. Let's talk about specifically Apple first. They do have warranty options available provided that you're shopping at a licensed retailer, but the problem with Apple comes when you actually try to use the warranty. If something happens with your machine and you need it fixed, you need to drive to an Apple store, leave it there for up to a week or longer depending on the issue, and eventually they'll give it back to you. Now, I don't know about your church, but if I was without my machine for a week or even longer, that could be catastrophic to the productivity of my week and the success of Sunday morning, especially if you, of course, don't have a backup machine. On the Windows side, it isn't as consistent. There isn't a single manufacturer for Windows machines. There are several, each with their own different warranty options and packages. But, for example, Dell, which is one of the largest in the field, has multi-year warranties and on-site support for broken machines. If you have a Dell machine that's under warranty that goes out, they will send a person to your church the next day to try to fix it on site. We're talking a downtime of a day or two instead of a week or two on the Apple side. For a lot of churches where Sunday is always coming, that could mean the difference between having a live stream on Sunday and not, between people being able to hear the gospel and not. That's a big deal. Now, taking all of these factors in together, again, I do think that there are some churches where Mac does make sense, and there are other churches where PC does make sense. There is, again, no one-size-fits-all solution for anybody. That being said, I do think in general, right now, as of July 2020, most churches should be avoiding Apple for the time being. The lack of nonprofit pricing, the uncertainty of their old and new models, plus their lackluster warranty leaves me leaning towards PC in almost every way. Again, as an Apple user. If you are looking for the best option in terms of price to performance and for the lifespan of your machine, I would highly recommend giving a shot towards speccing and building your own computer yourself. It is not as hard as it sounds. There are plenty of guides that are available online, and if you're interested, we would love to be able to help churches figure out how to do this. Leave a comment down below if that's a video you'd like to see. But with that, I hope you have a great rest of the day, even the Apple fanboys who are flaming me in the comments right now. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Blackbar. If you want to dive deeper into all the subjects we talk about in these videos, hit up the Blackbar podcast. We upload them every week, and if you like the videos, you're sure to like the podcast as well. If you have any questions about anything we talked about here today, make sure to join the Discord. We're there along with our certified pros and our community, happy to help work together towards figuring out what's right for your church. Make sure to like this video and subscribe, and we will see you next week.